Hola, mi gente! Listen, we're doing a thing this week. We're back, we're ready, and we're about to dive into this commercial real estate life with the Espanol, combining two of the things that I love. Here we go! Hola, hola, me llamo Lauren y profesora él for the purpose of mi página de YouTube. But just in case you were wondering if this is your first time, I just want to tell you welcome, bienvenidos a la página. And if you are returning, welcome back, bienvenidos otra vez, amigos. So we are about to dive in. And like I told you guys, we're going to combine two of the things that I am most passionate about, real estate and Espanol. So I told you guys that this lesson was going to be on commercial real estate and Espanol in the industry. And that is because, again, I am in commercial real estate. And as a result, I want to bridge the gap and assist people in being able to really enhance their business using the Spanish language, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to dive in and we are going to have another lección sobre bienes raíces comercial. So, and if you need to know what a bienes raíces is, all you have to do is go and watch my other video from last week. It'll tell you everything you need to know about the bienes raíces. So, where do we start? How do we do this? Where do we dive in? Why is this important? Because we want to be able to open our doors to anyone without there being language barriers. Now, I know you guys are like, why is she outside? I told y'all I'm a nature girl. I love being outside. The weather is amazing. It's warm, but it's not hot. And it has a nice breeze going as you see my hair blowing in the wind. Okay, no, but seriously. I do. I'm a nature girl. I love outside. I grew up in the deep south, so I'm not afraid to be outside. The bugs don't bother me, etc., etc. It's kind of a part of life. It's a way of life. So, here we go. Standing out here, I can hear the birds chirping. Listen. Now, as soon as I let y'all listen, the birds stop chirping. Nevertheless, let's dive into our lección. Vamos a empezar con la lección ahorita. Ok, vamos a empezar con la lección para este día. Y es muy importante que ustedes aprenden mucho sobre la industria y también la idioma. Okay? It's really important that y'all learn the language and the industry simultaneously. So where do we begin with this particular lesson? So in this lesson, we're going to focus on being able to ask the necessary questions around commercial real estate sales listings. So that's our focus. So if you are wanting to learn more about what questions would be asked, or even if you want to know what those questions look like in Spanish, this is the time to learn that. And so just because this is commercial focus doesn't mean that some of these questions won't also work for the residential side. Now, you will hear some, they're going to be like, okay, how do I actually put that into residential? Because we're not dealing with business owners, but all you need to know is a different vocabulary word to interject, and I'll give you some of those to help you out along the way as well. So, let's go. Let's dive in. We're going to start. Vamos a empezar con el vocabulario. And the vocabulario hoy is going to be all about the preguntas that you would need to ask someone who is selling a property. So, real quick, you know what the pregunta is based on what I just said? If you said question, bingo! Tú eres muy inteligente y este me encanta. Now, remember, recuerda que, sorry, I didn't want to give it to you all in Spanish. Recuerda that the vocabulario is going to be focused on preguntas that we're going to ask those who would be selling a property, okay? So, property owners, whether it's comercial o residencia, okay? So, here we go. Here's your first one. Pregunta número uno. ¿Tienes compañeras del negocioso? Otra vez. ¿Tiene compañeros del negocioso? Pregunta 2. ¿Por qué quiere vender la propiedad? Otra vez. ¿Por qué quiere vender la propiedad? Now, don't worry. I'm going to tell you what it means. Pregunta número 3. ¿Tienen una lista de inquilinos? Otra vez. ¿Tienen una lista de inquilinos? Y la última pregunta, número 4. ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? Otra vez. ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? All right. So we have the cuatro preguntas. Now we have to break down what they mean, because just giving them to you in Spanish without having any context to English really doesn't make any sense, right? Now, typically when I teach these things, I do it very differently. If I'm doing it in a course, which you guys have got to join one of my courses that I put out, or if I'm doing a cohort where I am teaching a series over a set period of time, I give this breakdown and this information very differently. And it's so dope. It's in a way that a lot of people have never learned a language, and they find it to be much easier to transition into language learning and actually using the language and being able to keep it together and pick up and move along and put all types of things together. So I'll give y'all more details about that soon. Let's start with the interrogative words, right? So the por qué and the cuánto. Those are very important to start with. So if we know what interrogative words are in English, then we also are to be able to understand and kind of figure out what they are in Spanish. So if we're talking who, what, when, where, why, how, those are interrogative words in English, right? And I know you guys already know that, but just as a refresher, wanted to bring it to the forefront. And so what we're going to end up doing is we've used 2 of those in our questions, our preguntas that we got 1 through 4. Earlier in the video. So if you're talking about the who, what, when, where, why, and how, so we know por qué and we know cuánto are one of the interrogative words, right? So let's figure out which one they are. So somebody tells you to do something, right? If you're younger, you know, we always question things when we're younger. Somebody tells you to do something. Most people want to ask por qué. Or how do you feel today? And someone says, not so great. You want to say, ¿por qué? So, what do you get from that por qué is? If you said why, you're right. So, por qué is going to be why. All right? Now, moving right along to cuánto. So, if you're going into a store and you want to purchase something, you're going to ask, ¿cuánto cuesta? And we go into a store and we want to know how much something costs. We go and ask the person who works at the store, ¿cuánto cuesta? And from that, I'm pretty sure you could figure out what the cuánto is. And if you said, you're muy inteligente, you have great skill of listening to context clues and figuring out what words mean. So yes, that is what the cuánto is, okay? So now we know what por qué and we know what cuánto are. So in our question, ¿por qué quiere vender la propiedad? We now know what that por qué is. We can figure out the rest, and I'll help you. So now that we have a better understanding of the role that the por qué is playing in that question, let's talk about the role that the cuánto is playing in the question. ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? So we now know that cuánto means how much, and as a result, we can kind of figure out the rest if we really want to, but I'm going to take you step by step, but we now know what the cuánto is in that question, right? And that's really important. So now let's go back to the rest of the sentence. The rest of the question where we have the of cuánto and por qué. So in por qué, you have por qué quiere vender la propiedad. Now we're talking about real estate. Let's talk about the word propiedad. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about selling real estate. In real estate, we're talking about property, and we have the word Propiedad. What do you think propiedad is if we're talking about real estate? And real estate talks about property. If you said property, you won. Yes, propiedad is property. So now we have por qué. We still don't know what the quiere is. We still don't know what the vender is. Okay? But we now know propiedad. So we have por qué, why, something, something, the property. Let's talk about the word vender. We're talking about getting listings and questions we should ask owners or business owners of properties for the listing. So that means they have to sell. And if the owner has to sell the property, we want to know why blank vender la propiedad. What do we think vender is if we know they need to sell the property? La propiedad. If you said to sell, that's right. So now we have por qué. We don't know what quiere is necessarily, but we do know vender is to sell, and we know la propiedad is the property. So let's figure it out. Why blank to sell the property? I'm asking the owner their rhyme and reason for selling the property. What do you think that word quiere is in the scheme of things? What would make sense? Yep, that's right. The question altogether is, why do you want to sell the property? Boom. And you can use that in commercial or residential. Okay, so let's go to our pregunta with cuánto. ¿Cuánto quiere? Uh-oh, there's that word quiere again. So we know that that's want, okay? We know cuánto is how much. How much do you want? Okay. Ganar de la venta de la propiedad. Oh, I know la propiedad is property. Okay, so how much do you want blank, blank, blank the property? Well, what does an owner of a property, what is the thing that they care about most at the end of the day if they're selling the property? We know cuánto, how much. Quiere, do you want? And we know la propiedad is the property. We just need to figure out ganar de la venta. Well, if I'm an owner and my main concern, and I'm selling a property, and my main concern is going to be the bottom line. How much do you want to profit? How much do you want to make from the sale of the property? And now you have that question. So we've gotten 2 of the questions down. We have 2 more to go, and they're going to be a lot easier because guess what they do? They both use tiene at the beginning of the question. So we've got to figure out what tiene is. But before we get into tiene, let's do the back end of those questions, right? So you see both of them there on the screen. And we want to figure out what those vocabulary words mean on the back end first. Now, tiene un compañero del negocioso is going to be more for commercial real estate, okay? But it can be used in residential, and I'll teach you how with the vocabulary, okay? So we need to figure out what tiene un compañero del negocioso is. So let's focus on negocioso. So I'm in commercial real estate. I have this property. I want to list it. It is a business. Have you figured out what negocioso is? Because yes, it is business. All right, so now we've gotten the word negocioso. So we know negocioso is business, okay? Now we're talking commercial real estate, and we're talking someone who owns a business or a building that they want to sell, right? And sometimes they have these partners who have partnered with them so that they can have a successful business, or they were, so they were able to purchase the property, whatever it may be. Have you figured out what compañero is yet? Because if you said partner, yes, they would be your business partner. So now we have compañero del negocioso, business partner. We've gotten that part. We're good to go. We don't have any questions there. So now we have to figure out what the tiene. Now, if I am your broker and you're trying to sell your property and I want to know about your business partners, what do you think I would be asking at the beginning? I need the tiene part. I need to know if you have, there we go. I need to know if you have business partners, because if you do, these people are going to have to agree to sell this business or agree for me to list this property along with you. Now, for the residential side, you would ask if they have an esposo or if they have a compañero de la casa. Simple, a small word, casa. And that's how you take it and you interchange it for residential and commercial. The last pregunta, okay, tienen una lista de inquilinos, is going to go super fast and easy for you because you already know what tiene is. Tiene is, do you have? Okay? Lista. What does lista look like in English? I need these things from the store and I'm going to list them out. I'm going on a trip and I'm going to make a list of things I need. If you said lista is list, you'd be correct. So now we have, do you have a list? And we need to figure out what, do you have a list? We need to figure out what the inquilinos is. Now, if I own a commercial building, and with this commercial building, I may have had a retail plaza, and as a result, I had other businesses renting space inside of my plaza. That means that I would need to have those people. What would those people who are business owners who are utilizing or renting a space from me in my retail plaza? Yep. Those will be my renters. So I'm asking, do you have a list of renters? In other words, do you have a rent roll? Because that's going to be really important when we're talking about trying to sell a business or a plaza or whatever it is that we're trying to sell, right? Or even if it's a multi-family unit, multifamiliar, okay? That's going to be super important. And boom, we have all of our preguntas and what all of our preguntas mean. Without me having to directly tell you, you figured it out along with me, and that's what matters most. All right, y'all, we're in the home stretch. We're at your favorite part, la pronunciación, which means I got to get up on the camera real close and personal so you can see how my mouth moves as I pronounce these words for you and make you greater and help you with this authenticating of your accent and your pronunciación de los vocabularios y la pregunta de o la palabra de español. Okay, so vamos a empezar con parte 2 de este video, la pronunciación de las preguntas. Pregunta número 1. ¿Tiene la lista de inquilinos? Otra vez. ¿Tiene una lista de inquilinos? Tiene una lista de inquilinos. Tiene una lista de inquilinos. Tiene un compañero del negocio. 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 Práctica, amigas. Práctica. ¿Cuánto quiere ganar, de la venta, de la propiedad. ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? That's what we want to get to. Y la última, el número 4. ¿Por qué quiere vender la propiedad? 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 That I use when I'm asking the questions. Número 1. ¿Por qué quiere vender la propiedad? ¿Cuánto quiere ganar de la venta de la propiedad? Tiene un compañero del negocioso. Tiene una lista de inquilinos. Notice that my tone on all of them, at the beginning, I went up. At the end, I went up even higher. So you always want to make sure that your tones are proper, because sometimes in English, we'll just say, whose is that? And it kind of sounds like a statement. But in Spanish, you want to make sure that it sounds like a pregunta. Whose is that? We're supposed to do it in English, but we just don't always do it. So I just want to point that out. That's it, y'all. Hemos terminado. We are done. We have finished. So I want you to make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, click that button below. I also want you to make sure you leave comments. Give me some feedback. Let me know how y'all are feeling about this, if you like it, if it's trending in the right direction, how I can shift and support you better. And last but not least, I want you to make sure that you bring a friend with you next time. Tell your network, tell everybody about this video and what we're doing over here on yours truly, Lauren Gabrielle with Profesora El. Last but not least, I do have a masterclass coming up for real estate professionals, and I want you guys to make sure you join us and you register for it. It's on April 17th, and I'm going to drop the details below so that you can be a part of this amazing opportunity to party with us on our masterclass. Y'all see, I like to dance and I love to sing. Hasta luego, amigos.